Before diving into today's show, hit that thumbs up icon to wish not only Tim Patrick but Demaria Crockett as well, who unfortunately suffered a torn ACL yesterday. Brutal day for the first day of padded practices at Dove Valley, but hit that thumbs up icon to wish them both a quick recovery. Today's Broncos Breakdown is sponsored by Mint Mobile, with cell phone plans starting as low as $15 a month. You're not going to find a better deal out there. So start saving today when you make the switch by going to mintmobile.com/chatsports. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. We'll tell you more about the Ryan Reynolds-owned company later on. But let's jump into some Tim Patrick replacements, because it sucks that we got to do this, and it sucks that we have to have this conversation, but that's the way the NFL works. It's a next man up kind of deal, and unfortunately for Patrick, we got to start talking about who's going to be the guy that steps up to that wide receiver 2-3. Honestly, you could even make the argument for wide receiver 1 role after he went down with the ACL tear during practice on Tuesday. I just want to point this out before we start looking at replacement options. What a shitty run for Broncos receivers against ACL tears. I don't know if anyone else realized this, but you had Tim Patrick go down in camp this year with an ACL. Last year it was KJ Hamler, and the year before that it was Courtland Sutton. Hopefully it ends and we don't have this conversation again in 2022. Now, when it comes to replacing Tim Patrick, I thought Ryan O'Halloran had a great point about you're not replacing Tim Patrick in terms of just adding another guy on the roster. You want to replicate or bring maybe someone else in that can do what he did very well, which was be a red zone threat. I mean, when you look at the bulk of his touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, they came within the 20-yard line. Last year, every single touchdown was within the 10-yard line. All right, year before that, 2, 12, 23. I mean, this is a player that quarterbacks trusted to go up and get the football close to the red zone. So I think that's probably going to be a focal point when George Paton starts to look around a little bit and go, all right, I'm not just looking to add a receiver. I'm looking for a new red zone target, because that's where Tim Patrick did a lot of his damage. In addition to 3rd and 8, who do you got over the middle? My guy, 81. All right, first option for replacing Tim Patrick, look within, right? Before you start even looking at free agency or the trade market, check out your own backyard. See what you got growing in training camp right now. So, updated depth chart here. I moved Kendall Hinton up to wide receiver 4. It's really going to be a battle between him and Tyrie Cleveland, for example, Seth Williams. Now, there are some interesting names out there, like Montrell Washington, who has been the star of all rookies. Now, I don't know if he's ready to take on a red zone role. That's not really what he was brought in to do. Brandon Johnson is an interesting name, but I think the first replacement is KJ Hamler, right? Sure, he's not going to be a red zone target for you in terms of a jump ball type of guy, but he's going to be getting a lot more carries and a lot more targets and receptions. He's got to step up more than any other receiver on this team to fill the void of Tim Patrick. Another player to look at, Kendall Hinton. Now, this would be closer. I mean, not quite even. He's still a speedster himself. Just got a little bit more size than Hamler, but who are we fooling here? Kendall Hinton, I mean, you're not going to find another Tim Patrick. It's kind of like in Moneyball. You're not going to find another Giambi. You're going to try to do your best to duct tape a close-ish Tim Patrick, which I think could be Brandon Johnson. UDFA out of Central Florida, who's got that Tim Patrick size, right? 6'2", around 200 pounds. He's more of your deep threat target. So I think Brandon Johnson could fit in nicely, and he's had a good start to camp so far. This would be a name to keep an eye on as someone who could really take advantage of the extra reps and opportunity coming his way. But before we look at signing options and trade options, how about you guys let me know this? Do you think the Broncos should go out and sign or trade for a wide receiver? Simple Y for yes or N for no. If you're putting an N for no down there, I'm going to assume that means you've got a lot of faith and trust in the rest of this receiving core. If you don't, and you're like, listen, Patrick's Patrick. We're not going to find another one on this team buried in the depth chart. Let's go out and see who's still on the street. We've got more Tim Patrick replacements to get to in just a moment, but I want to tell everyone watching about the awesome benefits that Mint Mobile has. I think the coolest feature about them is how easy it is to switch from your current cell phone plan over to Mint Mobile. Because not only are you going to be joining the nation's largest 5G network, but they've got plans starting as low as $15 a month, and all you have to do is go to mintmobile.com/chatsports, sit on your couch, let eSIM technology do the work, and you can keep your current phone and phone number. That link is for everyone in the comments and the description of today's show. All right, let's get into some maybe more sexy, spicy options, free agency. Because as sports fans, it's always fun to just go, let's sign someone, right? Let's bring a big name in off the street, and there's some big names out there, right? You might be surprised at some of the players who are still available. Now, I do think it is worth noting that under GM George Paton, the Broncos have not necessarily been the flashiest in free agency, right? You have seen Paton be very confident in the current guys on the roster and not have to outsource and look to free agency the moment things aren't going their way or players aren't living up to expectations. Denver also only has just about 11-ish million in cap space. So they could still sign a player because no free agent in August is going to be asking for really anything close to that. It's going to be vet minimum contracts with a lot of incentives. But I don't know if Paton really wants to get close to zero and, get by the skin of his teeth for the cap this year. Here are some key free agents still remaining. Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, and Deshaun Jackson are 5 guys that are most likely, the biggest step in today and impact type of players. Now, after doing yesterday's video, a common name was in the comments. That was Odell Beckham Jr. I understand the appeal because OBJ is absolutely better than all 5 of those guys. He is coming off an ACL tear, which is a little murky to say when it happened, but the first time he tore his ACL with the Browns, it was nearly a 12-month recovery. It was like 11 months and some change. If it's that again, he ain't coming back until November, probably at the earliest. That's not going to help Paton out a ton right now. So I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. makes a ton of sense. Now, we'll unpack some other free agent options and some of their stats in just a second. But here at Chat Sports, we've got a bit of a competition right now in the month of August between our Broncos channel and the Chiefs Report hosted by Harrison Graham. We've gotten off to a good start so far, up in the sub count 37-11. I don't know about you guys, I want to bury Chiefs Kingdom. So hit that big red button and subscribe today if you want free Broncos content or if you just hate KC. All right, Cole Beasley. This is a common name when it comes to free agent receivers out there. Last 4 seasons with the Bills and a little bit with the Cowboys, I think he's been a little bit underrated. I don't think most people would have thought 2 years ago he was nearly a 1,000-yard receiver and 4 touchdowns. Now, he works out of the slot. That's not really what Tim Patrick does, right? So if you want to get a new red zone guy, that's not really going to be Cole Beasley. But he's probably the most reliable receiver still on the market. Now, Emmanuel Sanders is a fun name to talk about, right? Broncos legend right there. But last couple seasons, he has not looked, and no one's expecting him to be the same that he was back in 2015 and that era with Peyton Manning. But last year with Buffalo, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns. He definitely provided some spark plays and whatnot. So when I'm looking at that list of 5 players, I'm kind of honing in on 2. Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, right? Not really focusing too much on Will Fuller or Deshaun Jackson. Because when it comes down to Beasley versus Sanders, Cole Beasley, I think, has a little bit more left in the tank. He's a little younger than Emmanuel Sanders. But who's going to argue against bringing back Sanders, right? I mean, to end his career with the Broncos, win a potential second Super Bowl, could have been 3 if Jimmy G didn't overthrow him. But for him to win with Peyton Manning and then hopefully with Russell Wilson, hard to beat. Like, nostalgic-wise, that's tough to pass up on. But in terms of just football IQ-wise, I mean, football geared and just thinking with your brain and not with your heart, I don't know if Sanders really is the best fit here. But I'll let you guys pick a receiver for me. Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley. Put the initials for which receiver you would rather see the Broncos sign. Or you can name someone else. I just narrowed it down to those 2. All right, third option for trying to replace Tim Patrick, which really cannot be done. What about the trade market? Always fun to talk about trades. We live for trades here. I don't think it makes a ton of sense, though, right? I'm going to come out right now and say I am against trading for a wide receiver. You already have a lot of talent at that position. It's not like you lost the only good receiver you have. You still have Sutton. You still have Judy. You know what I mean? It was extra gravy to have three stud receivers, right? Three receivers that when they're all on their A game, which we haven't ever seen at the same time, is just unfair. I'm also going to bring this back here. The Broncos don't have a ton of draft capital for 2023. Only 5 picks in the upcoming draft. Now, if you're going to be making a trade, it's probably going to be for a lower level player, which is only going to cost like a 2024 6th or 7th, right? It's not going to cost you a ton, but still, you're not in a position to just be unloading assets. So here are 5 players on the trading block right now that fit that wide receiver criteria. Tyler Johnson in Tampa Bay. When the Bucs went out and signed Julio Jones, and they already have Mike Evans, and they had Brashard Perriman, and they've got Chris Godwin, it felt like there was going to be one or too many good receivers in Tampa that just don't have a home. Which brings me to Scotty Miller. Both receivers that have had good splashes with Tampa. Now, it does help that Tom Brady's your quarterback, but those are 2 guys that will either, I think, could be cut. It might be nice waiver wire pickups, or trade candidates as their receiver room starts to get a little bit too filled. All right, Darius Slayton. This might be the best player out there that fits the mold of what the Broncos could be looking for. Not a red zone threat necessarily, but he's definitely, I would say, kind of being, I would say, not pushed out of New York, but he peaked his rookie season. He's been going slowly downhill. Maybe a change of pace and, I don't know, an upgrade from Daniel Jones to Russell Wilson could, provide a catalyst to spark his career back up again. All right, Jalen Reagor. That's the next guy on my list here. So, former first-round pick that, of course, we all know has been a bust, has not lived up to the hopes in Philly. When the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown and they drafted Devontae Smith, really spelled doom for Reagor having a role in that offense. Philly might be just looking to get something for the guy. Maybe Denver thinks they can be the team that can find that first-round talent that the Eagles saw in him a couple years ago. Now, before we show this last guy, I don't think it's actually realistic whatsoever. But I do think it'd be fun if the Broncos traded for Trinity Benson, right? The training camp MVP from last year, back in 2022. Last year they traded him off to Detroit. He is he's treading water right now with the Lions on that depth chart. They signed DJ Chark. They drafted Jameson Williams. Benson's definitely a bubble guy. Doesn't make a ton of sense to trade back for him after trading him away. But in the same note, teams like familiarity, and they might like to bring Benson back because at least he knows more about the Broncos organization than any of the 4 other guys out there. I honestly just put him up there because I think it'd be super cool if they brought Benson back, even if it's not really in the cards. I would think the most realistic option is probably going to be to wait for some cuts to happen. As teams begin to trim down their rosters, the Broncos might just pick up someone just to have an extra body in training camp, but they will be active when maybe a Darius Slayton cut happens, right? Some of those more surprising cuts that inevitably every year happens, and a team like the Broncos goes, you know what? We need a receiver. You might have one too many on your roster. We'll take him off your hands here, and we'll pick him up from the waiver wire. Before we get on out of here, you guys know the drill. If you've made it this far in the video, comment, let's ride, because Broncos country, let's ride. Shout out to all of you guys for watching to the end of the video. It's the end of the video squad. Appreciate all the support you guys show me. So hit a let's ride down in the comment section below.